Hi, my name is Margot Lee, and this is my audience member,
Hi, I'm Chloe.
and this is my persuasive speech. Why is murder bad, but the death penalty good? It's my position that the death penalty in murder is bad. I view capital punishment as a form of murder. However, I think our government allows it because they intend it to keep the balance of good and bad in our society. I do not doubt that the death penalty is meant to deter criminal acts and protect the public from murderers. However, I believe locking murderers in prison for life is just as effective in deterring capital crimes. But it's a less fulfilling punishment to an emotionally charged public or media. I think it's an instinctual part of our human nature to want revenge, but it should be our legal system that reminds us, not encourages us, that one foul act does not deserve another. Our society teaches us that murder is bad. This I agree with. Murder is an immoral and inhumane act of violence, and it should not be condoned. I've compiled some of the methods of execution that have been used here in the U.S. I want you to take a look at them and think to yourself about whether you think these devices are moral or humane. Here's a chart where it says that lethal injection takes 5 minutes to 2 hours. The gas chamber takes 10 to 18 minutes. Hanging takes 4 to 11 minutes. And the electric chair takes 2 to 15 minutes plus. Here is the room that they use for lethal injection. Here's the room that they use for gas chamber. Here's what they use for hangings. And here's the electric chair. Our legal system lays out severe consequences for those found guilty of committing murder. The punishment for murder can vary from years to life in prison and sometimes execution. A death sentence is given only to those of capital crimes. One way the legal system determines a capital crime is to deem it as a heinous, atrocious, and cruel act. The death penalty is not intended for criminals to get what they deserve or to seek revenge by getting an eye for an eye. Our legal system is based on justice, not on revenge. Justice requires that all persons be treated equally and fairly, which is a near impossible task since we are certainly not all equal. The death penalty is an absolute punishment. That requires absolute certainty of guilt to be considered a fair and just punishment. Despite the government's best efforts to create a reliable death penalty system, innocent people are still being executed. The capital punishment process is arbitrary at best. Not everyone who commits murder is sentenced to death. There is no equality in our legal system when money and a fancy lawyer can buy criminal freedom. The finality of the death sentence does not allow the legal system to reverse the punishment when it has admitted an error. There is no justice in a punishment that can be given but not taken back. So what is the alternative to the death penalty, you might be wondering? I think that life imprisonment is just as severe a punishment, but it can at least be taken back. The death penalty is meant to deter criminal acts and protect the public from murderers, but the death penalty is not necessary to achieve the benefit of protecting the public from murderers who may strike again. I do think that life imprisonment achieves the same goal without requiring us to take life. Locking murderers in prison for life is just as effective in deterring capital crimes as the death penalty. As a society, we have a moral obligation to protect human life, not take it. Given the value we place on life, we should be obligated to seek a lesser alternative to the death penalty. The death penalty, is it still recording? The death penalty isn't necessary to ensure that the criminals get what they deserve. Justice does not require us to punish murderers by death. It only requires that the gravest crimes receive the severest punishment that our moral principles would allow us to impose. And I think that being locked away for the rest of your life is severe enough. An author that has encouraged me to expand my personal thinking and philosophies on life and the death penalty in general is Albert Camus. Albert Camus was an advocate of human rights who found immorality in government-sanctioned killing. Camus found the death penalty to be more a form of revenge than justice. He feared the death penalty encouraged brutality in our society. Camus felt that capital punishment would be a good deterrent only if executions were broadcasted publicly to instill fear in anyone who thought of murdering. In Albert Camus' classic essay, Reflections on the Guillotine, he writes about his father's reaction after he has just gone to watch an execution in person at the town square. When the extreme penalty simply causes vomiting on the part of the respectable citizen it is supposed to protect, how can anyone maintain that it is likely, as it ought to be, to bring more peace and order into the community, Camus writes. Rather, it is obviously no less repulsive than the crime, and this new murder, far from making amends for harm done to the social body, adds now a new blot to the first one. Author Derek Alger summarized Camus' essay by saying that in the eyes of Camus, capital punishment was really no more than a case of retaliation, a violent emotion, not a principle. And furthermore, he noted retaliation is related to nature and instinct, not law, which one would hope is intended to correct and not merely imitate or reproduce that nature. Without serving a purpose, capital punishment is reduced to an act of revenge that only breeds further violence. Capital punishment is the same as the concept of an eye for an eye. Justice should be based on law and principles, not on instinct and emotions. Author Desmond Tutu wrote, "Retribution, resentment, and revenge have left us with a world soaked in the blood of far too many of our sisters and brothers. The death penalty is part of that process. It says that to kill in circumstances is acceptable and encourages the doctrine of revenge. If we are to break these cycles, we must remove government-sanctioned violence." I agree with Desmond Tutu. I also feel that we must break the cycle of shedding blood and in-government-sanctioned execution. I ask that if any of this sounds right to you, if you feel that capital punishment is wrong, if you agree that murder is wrong, if you don't ever want to be put in a situation where you or someone you love is facing the death penalty for something they did or maybe didn't even commit, then please speak up. Use your voice. Maybe there will be enough of us to make a change in our policy. I ask that you write to your congressman or woman, plead with them to fight against capital punishment. One voice might not be enough, but together we just might be loud enough to be heard so that we can leave the death penalty back in the Stone Ages where it belongs. Thank you.